John Travolta walked onto the Cannes Film Festival stage and received 4 standing ovations, a career retrospective, and an honorary Palme d'Or. He called it beyond the Oscar. Then the reviews for his directorial debut came in, and one critic called it a disaster. Here is the full story of what happened at Cannes and what it reveals about one of Hollywood's most fascinating recurring patterns. What is going on, everyone? Welcome back. John Travolta is one of the most iconic actors in Hollywood history. Saturday Night Fever, Grease, Pulp Fiction, 50 years of stardom. This weekend at the Cannes Film Festival, he premiered his very first film as a director, a personal passion project called Propeller One-Way Night Coach. The reception was enormous on the red carpet and deeply mixed in the press. We are breaking down everything about the film, the reviews, the Cannes moment, and the broader pattern this story fits into perfectly. Let's get into it. The Cannes Film Festival premiere of Propeller One-Way Night Coach was a genuinely celebratory event for Travolta personally. Before the film even screened, he received 4 separate standing ovations from the audience. There was a career-spanning retrospective montage celebrating his 50 years in Hollywood, and he was presented with an honorary Palme d'Or, one of the most prestigious honors in world cinema. Travolta's response to receiving the honorary Palme d'Or was characteristically warm and genuine. He said it was beyond the Oscar. For a man who has been one of the most recognizable faces in global entertainment since the 1970s, that response reflected real emotion about being recognized at Cannes in this particular way. The festival's director, Thierry Frémaux, introduced the screening with a theory about films made by actors, that they tend to be intimate, unique, personal, and full of ideas about cinema. It was a generous framing, and as critics pointed out almost immediately, it might also be a very diplomatic way of preparing an audience for what they were about to see. So what is Propeller One-Way Night Coach actually about? The story is autobiographical, drawn from Travolta's own childhood memory of taking a flight across the United States with his mother in 1962 at the age of 8, stopping at various cities along the way. It is a sincere piece of personal nostalgia, rooted in a specific and clearly cherished memory from his early life. Travolta actually told this story before. He wrote it up as a children's novel back in 1997. The material has personal significance to him that spans nearly 3 decades. That level of attachment to a story is both understandable and, critics suggest, part of what makes the film feel like it may have been better suited to a different format. The running time is 61 minutes, significantly shorter than a standard feature film, and rather than developing dramatic scenes to bring the story to life cinematically, Travolta relies heavily on his own non-stop voiceover narration to describe what is happening on screen. Critics have noted that this approach suggests even Travolta himself may not have been entirely convinced that the material was strong enough to carry a full cinematic treatment on its own terms. One critic described the film as a disaster. Others were more measured but still mixed. The consensus appears to be that it works better as a warm personal anecdote than as a piece of cinema. Pleasant, sincere, but not particularly compelling as a feature film experience. Here is where the story gets genuinely interesting beyond just one film's reviews, because Propeller One-Way Night Coach fits into a very specific and well-documented pattern in Hollywood. There's a category of film that appears regularly at prestigious festivals like Cannes, Toronto, and Venice. Passion projects directed by famous actors who have reached a level of stardom where they can get unusual personal films financed, either through their industry connections or their own money. These films get festival slops, they generate red carpet glamour, and then they very often disappear without ever finding a wide audience. Ryan Gosling's Lost River premiered at Cannes in 2014, a surrealist, David Lynch-influenced film that received a polarized response and has never been followed up by Gosling as a director. Chris Pine directed, produced, co-wrote, and starred in Poolman, a quirky detective film that screened at the Toronto International Film Festival in 2023 to devastating reviews and promptly sank. Kevin Costner self-financed a 2-part Western epic called Horizon: An American Saga. Chapter 1 screened at Cannes in 2024 and Chapter 2 at Venice, to such poor response that the second chapter was not even given a theatrical release. And last year at Cannes, Scarlett Johansson made her directorial debut with Eleanor the Great, to very little critical acclaim. The pattern is consistent enough that it raises a real question. Why do festivals keep selecting these films? The answer appears to be straightforward. A famous actor on the red carpet brings Hollywood glamour and media attention to a festival, which is valuable regardless of the film's quality. And for cinephiles who attend these events, watching an acting icon express themselves vulnerably in a new creative form carries its own fascination, even when the results are amateurish. It is worth noting that actors turned directors are not always making vanity projects. Some of the most significant filmmakers in cinema history started as performers. Charlie Chaplin directed and starred in masterworks. Clint Eastwood has built one of the most respected directing careers of his generation. Greta Gerwig and Jordan Peele are two of the most acclaimed directors working today, both coming from acting backgrounds. The difference appears to be genuine directorial ambition that develops independently of star status versus passion projects that get made primarily because a famous actor has the resources and connections to make them happen. The former produces real cinema. The latter produces what Frémaux called intimate and personal films, which is a phrase that covers a very wide range of quality. Propeller One-Way Night Coach will be released globally on Apple TV Plus on May 29th. Travolta's honorary Palme d'Or will be his regardless of how the film performs on streaming. That is the full story. 4 standing ovations, 1 honorary Palme d'Or, and mixed to negative reviews. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Will you be watching on Apple TV? Hit like, subscribe, and we will see you in the next one.